Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda ki, Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki, Vrindavan Dham ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Jagan Kshetra Dham ki, Ganga Maya ki, Yamuna Maya ki, Tulsi Maharani ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Alabha Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we shall be continuing with going through the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you to the devotees who have given me this service. My inexperience and my inauspiciousness is greatly high, but they have still decided to give me this service to share my understanding of these verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And so I plead with you all to tolerate this session as we understand what Krishna and Arjuna's exchange is, how that is also significant in our life, because this interaction is actually very significant in our existence. For all people, readers of the Gita seriously, or even people who don't read the Gita, or people who come in contact with other versions of the Gita, they tend to appreciate this conversation as a mere reflection of things that they experience within their life. And so if we kind of look at this as ourselves dealing and having this exchange with Krishna also, but with the expert guidance of Arjuna, then we can make better decisions in our life. We're going through chapter 3, text 1. Chapter 3 is entitled Karma Yoga. It's a very, very interesting play of words here. What is Karma Yoga? What is karma? What is Karma Kanda? How are they different? Buddhi, Sankhya philosophy, all these things. And these first few verses display Arjuna's confusion based on everything that Krishna has mentioned. So we're going to go through this very, very briefly, and then open up for any small realizations that the sage in front of me might have. So I'll just read the Sanskrit. We'll have quick, small call and response, and then we'll go through the rest of the verse. Arjuna uvacha Jayasi chet karma naste Mata buddhir janardana Tat kim karmani ghore. Mam niyojayasi ke. Tat kim karmani ghore mam. Niyojayasi Keshava. Yeah, different texts I'm reading. Mine's grouped differently. Yeah, Arjuna uvacha Jayasi chet karmanaste Mata buddhir janardana Tat kim karmani ghore mam Niyojayasi Keshava Jayasi chet karmanaste Mata buddhir janardana Tat kim karmani ghore mam Niyojayasi Keshava. Arjuna uvacha Jayasi chet karmanaste Mata buddhir janardana Tat kim karmani ghore mam Niyojayasi Keshava. Word for word translation. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, Jayasi, better. Chet, if. Karmanaha, than fruitive action. Te, by you. Mata, is considered. Buddhi, intelligence. Janardana, O Krishna. Tat, therefore. Kim, why. Karmani, in action. Ghore, ghastly. Mam, me. Niyojayasi, you are engaging. Keshava, O Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga, or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness, of Buddhi Yoga, or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga, or work in Krishna consciousness, in this third chapter. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Alright, so, as I mentioned, this is interesting. To some extent, Krishna gave all the keys to Arjuna in the second chapter. Arjuna was fully equipped with what he needed to do in regards to his activities. But there's this interesting saying, which I ended up coming across while I was doing research on this. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You can convince him to do something different, convince him to make a different action. But if you're doing it by force, then he'll do it out of doing it, but he'll not do it with the intention of doing it right. So he'll still hold on to his opinion. And this is something we're seeing with Arjuna. Arjuna was very confident. Karpanya dosho pahata sobhava. I'm confident in taking surrender. Shishyastyam sadi mantvam prapana. Instruct me because I do not know what to do. I'm your disciple. Tell me what to do. So you'd think after reading that, okay, Arjuna is fully surrendered. And then Krishna gives him all the instructions in chapter 2. And Arjuna is still asking more questions. But I thought, Sishyastyam Sadi said, now my disciple has soul surrendered unto you, please instruct me. He wasn't fully convinced. Still for him, fighting his relatives, people he knows, people he has some attachment to, was a very, very difficult thing. And so we'll even look just at how intelligently Arjuna does this, what I call cherry picking, to present his argument so that he can make a choice based on what's comfortable for him. And this is something we all do, so it's interesting. We'll go through it. So first of all, looking at the verse itself, Arjuna creates this disparity between karmic activity and intelligence. And he makes it seem like, okay, Krishna is telling me to still fight, when he's clearly proven to me that performing activities based on karma is worse than me performing activities in intelligence. So why is he still allowing me to fight? The argument that Krishna gave at first was that Arjuna, fight, even if you fail, you go to the heavenly kingdoms. If you don't, and you win, and you become successful, you get to attain the kingdom, and you get to be the leaders. So there's some karmic level of activity there. So why would Krishna still be asking Arjuna to perform this activity if he's clearly elaborated in the rest of chapter 2 or the greater part of chapter 2 that actually performing activities in intelligence is much better than performing activities based on karma? And so then we can understand that really, he was very, very much unsettled. So he cherry picks. things that he's heard from the previous verses to suit his argument. And that's why he's asking this question. And what's the first thing? If we go back, so everyone even who's watching back home, if you have your Bhagavad Gita, let's turn to chapter 2, text 39. So in chapter 2, text 39, Krishna has told Arjuna, now I'll explain to you something much better. I'll explain to you Buddhi Yoga, Sankhya philosophy, for which will do what? Karma bandham prayasyasi, which will free you from the bondage of works. So that's interesting. Krishna was first elucidating, perform an activity that will put you in the best position karmically, if you do it right, based on your position. And then here, Arjuna is being told by Krishna, I'll tell you some information that you can perform activities that will free you from the bondage of works. So immediately he's thinking, whatever he's going to tell me will make me not have to fight, because this fighting is giving me some bandhana. I'm attached. I have all these things. So whatever he's about to tell me is going to get me out of this fix that I'm in. And what does Krishna end up talking about? Sankhya philosophy, not of the impersonalist Kapila, but of actual Kapila Dev, Krishna himself, pertaining to him understanding his position and intelligently working from this consciousness. Then he moves on. That's not where it ends. We go to 249, so 10 verses later. And then in 249, Krishna is telling Arjuna, abandon all abominable activities. Durena hyavaram karma. So Arjuna is probably thinking, what's more abominable than me fighting my relatives? There's nothing. So if Krishna is telling me to abandon, then I can leave this fight and go practice Krishna consciousness. And then, it's interesting. And then he says, Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya. So avoid these abominable activities by practicing devotional service. So that in Arjuna's mind is pretty clear. Avoid any of this fighting. And, secure yourself by chanting Hare Krishna and connecting in devotional service. Then you can actually, not be affected by trying to enjoy the fruits of your actions. Because what does he end up saying? Kripana falahetavaha. That those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So Krishna wouldn't put me in a position where I either have to enjoy the heavenly kingdoms or have to enjoy a kingdom here, because that would be miserly activity. He doesn't want me to be a Kripana. What is he going to speak about later? Stita dhir, Stita pragya. And then he encourages me to be a Stita pragya, right? So in the latter chapter, or the latter verses of chapter 2, Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, yes, be a Stita pragya. And if you practice this Buddhi Yoga consistently, diligently, then you'll attain the state of samadhi. And this is obviously devoid of Prabhupada's purports, because when we read Prabhupada's purports, we understand what Krishna is saying. But if just by looking at this could be things that would be running in Arjuna's mind. So he'll go into the state of samadhi. So it's clear to Arjuna's mind that I don't really have to fight then. Hence why when he asks this question in 3.1, for him it's seeming pretty like much of a solid question. Why do you want to engage me? Jaya si chet karmanaste. You're saying karma is bad. Mata bhutir janardana. Janardana, buddhi yoga is much better, right? So why engage me in this ghastly warfare? Tatkim karmani ghore, this ghastly, bloody warfare, if that's what your opinion is. If your opinion is that Buddhi Yoga is much better than Karma Yoga, why are you asking me to fight? Why are you asking me to still engage in these activities? And then it becomes interesting, and obviously this is going to be spoken about by the next speaker in the next class. But the next verse becomes very significant here, because Arjuna is basically saying, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Basically, you're telling me one thing, but I'm not too sure. It's not clear in my mind. So dispel it. Make me understand it much clearly. So in the purport, just looking at the system of the purport and how Prabhupada chooses to look at these things, Prabhupada first highlights that Krishna is recommending Buddhi Yoga as a means of being disentangled from material disturbance. It's clear that Buddhi Yoga is a thing. So to some extent, Arjuna is not missing the point. Yes, Buddhi Yoga is the way. Why do we believe this? Because Krishna is the ultimate authority. He's all perfect. So whatever he says goes. If Krishna was to say that if for perfection of life is us wearing a cat suit and running down the streets, then everyone would be pursuing the same. Because it's coming from Krishna, all attractive. He has all the 6 opulences. So whatever he says, we take as fact. Prabhupada then goes on to discuss the idea that Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness is mostly misconstrued to be an activity that is activity-less, which involves doing nothing and isolating yourself and putting yourself in a situation far distant from anything that can cause any forms of reaction, so that the person can work on chanting the holy names and from there achieve the perfection, get to see Krishna, get that Sarupa understanding, and then boom, go back home, back to Godhead. But then we understand even from Prabhupada and everything that he's created for us, that actually Krishna consciousness means more activity. And it was interesting, when I at first was thinking about Krishna consciousness, I remember I came here to the temple, and I was speaking to all these devotees, senior devotees, Parama Karuna Prabhu, Sutapa Prabhu, Srinivas Prabhu. And then I was seeing them day in, day out. And then all of a sudden, this Swami comes in and is holding a danda. And I was told that he was in the building, but I wasn't seeing him. So he was probably isolated somewhere doing his bhajan. And I was thinking, why am I wasting my time talking to all these other people? This is the person I should be talking to. Because he's reached that perfection. He doesn't need to do anything. He's just there with his danda, fully connected with Krishna. And I was thinking, that's what I want to do. That's why I came here. So why am I wasting my time speaking to all these people? Because my understanding was, when you become Krishna conscious, you need not do anything else. You just chill, relax, speak to people about Krishna, relax. Where people come to you, you speak to them, but most of the time you're relaxed, completely isolated, chanting, reflecting, and doing your own thing. But then when I actually moved into the temple, the first thing I was told by my senior was, so we put you on the cleaning rota and you're going to be cleaning the toilets. And I was like, is this what I came for? Why are you making me clean toilets? So yeah, that misconstruction is there, that Krishna consciousness involves you not being active. But then Prabhupada comes and shows us, actually, no, you need to be active. And what does he then end up emphasizing after this point is that training is needed for one to develop this internal meditation. So if one wants to successfully move into a space of having that internal bhajan, like the Swami, who gets to have that laxity based on his practice, then one has to have gone through rigid training. And that rigid training is sadhana bhakti, which Prabhupada very, very strongly advocates for. And he's presented a morning program that allows us to be able to engage ourselves fully in some form of sadhana that can purify us if we do it properly, so that we can be able to perceive Krishna internally as Chaitya Guru, and then from there develop that internal meditation that can get us to reach the perfection that we're looking for. So the training is needed. And so Prabhupada is really emphasizing this in the purport, that we have to have training. And so that's why situations that allow us to get into association of devotees is actually helping us get trained up on how to develop our character. And obviously this can be a double-edged sword depending on how we tend to utilize this association of the devotees. We can be around them and choose to do nothing. But then Sutta Prabhu mentioned something quite interesting, that if you're around devotees who are practicing very, very strictly, there's either 2 options. The first option is that you force yourself to reach their level. And the second option is that you're afraid that you can't reach their level, so you run away and isolate yourself. It's either those 2. Because the pressure of being around advanced souls is that they're all constantly helping you check yourself that you're actually not reaching the mark. And so you need to work, right? And I see that as well, staying in the temple here, that most of the interactions I'm having with the devotees is just reminding me how much I'm not doing. Because you can feel that even from how they speak, from how they present themselves, that they're situated in proper understanding of devotional life. And then there's me here who's constantly speculating and rushing from hither and thither. And so I get disturbed by small things that shouldn't really be disturbing me. And the only way I can see that is because I'm around people who are not being disturbed. So yes, definitely that association is needed. And I know for many people who are struggling out there because of this lockdown situation, they haven't been able to relish that association that's actually a guiding factor. But in one sense, reading Prabhupada's books is getting that association also and understanding what actions we need to do. If one was to look at this conversation, they would probably look at it in the exact same way Arjuna would be. But thanks to Prabhupada's purports, you get to understand it much deeply and kind of look at it much clearly. As I was looking through, someone had read the Bhagavad Gita without Prabhupada's purports and was asking, then why doesn't Krishna fully just say clearly, without having to, use any equivocal word jugglery, that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost and that everyone should be practicing Bhakti Yoga? But because we have Prabhupada's purports, we understand from the beginning of where any confusion comes that when Krishna is talking about Karma Yoga, he's talking about Krishna consciousness. When he's talking about Buddhi Yoga, he's talking about Krishna consciousness. When he's talking about Sankhya Yoga, he's talking about Krishna consciousness. So thanks to the Acharya, we have clarity. And that clarity is important because it allows us then to see, okay, how can we intelligently trudge on this path of devotional life? And this is the same clarity in one way that we are looking for from our spiritual masters. So we're hunting for a guru who's going to be able to allow us to share with him our concerns and our doubts. The job of the guru, based on this, is to clear out our doubts so that we can also surrender and, come up to a level. Obviously, we can never be on the same level as Guru, but he clears out our ignorance so that we can understand that Krishna consciousness is the best thing for us to do and therefore ultimately surrender. And this becomes Arjuna's guiding, Arjuna's success. That even though he was trying to cherry pick to, get an answer that he wants. And this is something we all do. At times I do this as well. I don't know if anyone else can relate. But if you have a problem and you know that the option that is best to be done, it was not really going to satisfy you, you'll phrase your question so that you can get that reciprocation that actually what you're thinking about is not wrong. So like, for example, I was normally waking up very early, and this past few weeks, that's kind of like changed. I've just been waking up half an hour before morning program, and then quickly rushing and getting ready. And so every time I would speak with one devotee here, his name is Srinivas Prabhu, a very, very highly enlightened soul, I would be telling him, working on the drama is so intense, hence why I'm sleeping a lot. Right? And then he'd be like, yeah, no, definitely, you're doing a lot of work. And so I found myself trying to use this as an excuse for why I wasn't reaching the standard of my practice that I should. I was normally waking up earlier, so I was engaging in more chanting, and by the time 7 o'clock would reach, my rounds were finished. But unfortunately now, what am I doing? I'm trying to approach Prabhu here to ask him, or to make him respond to me by letting me know that it's okay for me to oversleep because I'm actually working pretty hard on my services. And that's something we all do in different degrees, be it in devotional life, be it in work life, in all different lives that we're living. We look for ways to get our point across without looking like the bad guy, without looking like we're deficient, looking as if we're actually saying the right thing. When in reality, it's all because they're not Krishna conscious. And so looking at that, Arjuna was in the same situation, but his good fortune is that he asks Krishna for guidance. And that's why when he says, my intelligence is bewildered by equivocal instructions, so please tell me what I need to do. That's his intelligence. That he's asked his guru to clear his doubts for him. And I just meditated on this, that most of the time we're going through doubts, but we're not reaching our authorities to actually help us clear these doubts fully. We'll speak to people who we have a common understanding with, obviously with the need to kind of progress from this, but simultaneously, we're not actually getting the answers that we're looking for. Because only the guru, or the person who has this full buddhi or intelligence, can be able to dispel for us these doubts. And so we should take guidance here from Arjuna that we should actually reach out to these personalities, to our seniors, to our authorities, and display our doubts clearly without even feeling embarrassed or feeling like it's just because we're on a lower grade of consciousness. Looking dumb in front of the senior is better than looking dumb for the rest of your life. So even if it's periodically seeming like, you've missed out the whole point, that clears you out from everything else. We've been reading in CC about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and how he openly just expresses his opinions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being so kind and so merciful, just listens to him until it prompts him to question, okay, what's up? Why are you not responding? Why are you not doing this? And then that allows for Mahaprabhu then to give him the proper clarity, and so then he actually becomes a devotee. We just did a play here on the transformation of Chankazi. And we also see this similar thing. Chankazi allows for that dialogue of him openly expressing his opinion to Mahaprabhu. And so Mahaprabhu slashes it because he was in nescience. His intelligence was bewildered by material indulgence. But because he openly expressed his views, then Mahaprabhu was able to clear it out. And so that's why he ended up surrendering and becoming a sincere soul who practices Krishna consciousness thereafter. So it's by that reaching out to this personality and sharing our views, our perspective, however limited it might be, however ego-shattering it might look like, so that we can get the proper clarity, so we can trudge on and actually relish this practice. Because the practice, by what we read and what we see from seniors, is very much promising. And, we're guaranteed that... I remember I was having a conversation with my boy Lucas over here about how I was having a discussion with one devotee and ended up posing this question even to one sannyasi of the hope that one can... The materialist is also experiencing some form of hope, same as we are. So as a practicing devotee, I'm hopeful that by following this process of bhakti yoga, I can get this result. And the materialist is working on the same frequency, that if I follow this business strategy, if I do this, if I work myself out in this way, then I can get the results of millions in the bank. So what's the difference? We're both riding on hope, isn't it? But then in Krishna consciousness, we have examples, powerful examples, and examples of people who actually achieve happiness. Because for the materialist, they're thinking that happiness for them comes from having these achievements. But when you look at the examples are discarding any material advancement as a source of their happiness. So clearly, there's a mismatch between the people who are driving them to reach their goal and the goal itself. But with Krishna consciousness, the people who are practicing devotional life, relishing the fruits and getting the bliss of practicing bhakti yoga, are not detesting bhakti yoga upon reaching the goal. The goal becomes the same simultaneously, and they're keeping on looking for more juice in their Krishna conscious practice. And so having such examples and reaching out to such people to dispel our doubts makes us be situated in the best hope that Krishna consciousness is actually better, and that if we take to this practice, Avasya Rakshibe Krishna, Krishna will surely take care of me and give me the bliss that I require. Hare Krishna. So that's what I had understood from this verse. Arjuna is cherry picking, but then he allows also for Krishna to dispel his doubts properly. Hare Krishna. I don't know if we have any questions, comments, or anything.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciated this last point about the difference between the goal and the means being the same, and like the goal is different from the means. And then one point that was just in the end also, you speak about opening up to other devotees, seniors. It takes a lot of courage, right? And it's not so easy. So what is in your experience, how do you do that practically? Especially, let's say, for somebody that's new in Krishna consciousness, and sometimes he finds it hard, to connect to people, and he's not sure if he can really trust all of them. And also, even we might have this experience with devotees, we open up to somebody, and then it's not treated as it should be, like confidentially treated, and it goes around, and these kind of experiences. So.
Definitely, I can relate. So what's the best way to kind of reach out to...
How can you do that?
Yeah, actually do this because, once bitten, twice shy. We've been hurt before, and we're probably also not comfortable in expressing. So this is a question that's being raised here. We're not comfortable in expressing our weaknesses or our doubts or our struggles because last it happened, things did not work out as we would have desired. So what's the best way for us to do this? I would personally look at this not from the perspective of the person trying to reach out, but from those who have helped them situate themselves in Krishna consciousness, making it our responsibility to make people feel comfortable to express themselves. And I guess Krishna conscious culture is one where everyone's responsible in that sense. For a person who's probably struggling to reach out, definitely if we're cultivating devotional relationships, as something we've been discussing, we can have someone at least that we can express ourselves to and share what we're feeling. And if we're finding that difficult, that's quite interesting. Because at least there should be one person who convinced you that Krishna consciousness was the path. And if you chose to take Krishna consciousness as a path, without the association of the devotees, the likelihood of that being possible is very low. You probably met the devotee who helped you understand something that you had gotten from the books, and so you got some reciprocation from them that helped you become more intimate with the understanding of the philosophy. So there should be a person at least that you can reach out to and express yourself to them. But also what you can do, which I've done before, is I've reached out to someone who's in ISKCON who I know does not know me. And so even if I express something about myself that's vulnerable, even if they respond rudely or they say something that hurts my feelings, I'm not really damaged anyway because they don't know who I am. So that's been a strategy. But definitely the devotees are curtailing themselves in a way that allows us to be able to express ourselves. And I'm fortunate even by being here and having association of devotees like yourself, where I can feel comfortable to express my feelings without feeling too judged. Then gradually I can have space to see how I can approach somebody else to give me guidance. And so it becomes our responsibility to ensure that the people around us feel comfortable to share their doubts and share their problems, and with a means to get rid of them. Because another thing is that people share their problems with a means to get sympathy, or for people to wallow and be like, oh, me, why me, etc. But if someone is sincerely sharing because they want to get out of this mix and want to kind of override it and be situated in bhakti, then the devotees will help. And no one's a devotee. Like I remember I reached out to one devotee, he's actually just leaving the temple room right now, telling him something, and I was about my weakness and my struggle. And something in the heart told me that no, you can share with him and he'll help you, And he did. He gave me some advice, gave me some guidance. So it also depends with our sincerity. Why do we want to do this? And if we have that sincerity, then Krishna brings the right people. I was actually reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying in the first chapter of Spiritual Masters that if someone is sincere in their practice, then Krishna himself will bring people to give him the proper guidance and mercy for him to make better choices in his life of bhakti. So it all also boils down to our sincerity. How sincere are we on this path? Are we actually sincere to want to experience Krishna consciousness? Or are we still looking for some name, fame, adoration? Prabhupada was even talking about it here. Isolating yourself to get some cheap adoration from the public. Is that what we're looking for? Or are we looking for something much more substantial? Love of God? Are we looking to actually be Krishna conscious? And if we have that sincerity, which is also another topic, how to cultivate sincerity, then by the mercy of the devotees, we can get there. But it is our responsibility as well to make people comfortable. And devotees like yourself are doing a good job at allowing other devotees to feel comfortable to expressing themselves, and hopefully allowing you to express yourself also. And so if we have more of that, then it, helps us grow like this.
Mental state of kind of wallowing and in that pain or whatever.
Yeah.
How to make it productive.
Yeah. So how to make our revealing ourselves not just about wallowing, but actually about progressing. Yeah. I think if you're around the devotees, so it always goes to that. If you're around the devotees and you're sincere about growth, then naturally you'll give up that desiring to to wallow, because you're understanding and you're reading that this wallowing about material existence is a waste of your time, because material existence is guaranteed to make you suffer. It's dukkhalayam. It's already guaranteed. And so a person who's reading Bhagavatam and, seeing things happening in the world is not surprised. I remember, I think it was Radhanath Maharaj who was saying, or actually not Radhanath Maharaj, I think it was Jayapataka Maharaj, His Holiness, was saying that if you're reading Shastra and you're seeing what's happening in this world, you're thinking, that makes a lot of sense. Because that's why it's a place of suffering. Look, people are getting killed by COVID. Someone is practicing, but then his body becomes destroyed because of dukkhalayam problems, everywhere, left, right, and center. And so I think if we have that association that's deep in Shastra, that's pushing themselves in their Krishna consciousness, then you will stop wanting to wallow and actually, what do I do now? And I think there's also, and I can feel this mood also permeating in the temple space, where people also want to get serious. And we can also see our seniors, like today we're having a discussion on how to get serious, have the mood of Narottam Das, Thakur. Just go for it and, not really wallow in your position or I'm locked up, I'm engaged, but how do I get out? How do I go to Vrindavan? So I think if we have that association, we can do that. And so that would be my suggestion. I don't know if you have any suggestions yourself like that. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Bol.